Can you claim your child on your taxes? So this comes up with people that are divorced or separated from someone, they have kids together, and they're trying to figure out come tax time, what is going on? What am I allowed to do? Am I allowed to claim them as an exemption, as a deduction, as a child tax credit? You know, what's the deal? So it used to always be, we would talk about tax exemptions, who's gonna claim the child as an exemption on the tax return. And that's been modified here recently, so I just wanted to make you aware of it. You still are gonna wanna sort it out, who's gonna claim what. It's best to have that in a court order and the appropriate IRS forms, not just one or the other. So you definitely want a court order saying what you're gonna do. And you know, when you're splitting up, you're getting divorced, going your separate ways, whatever it is, you set up custody, parenting time, child support, you establish child support numbers. So part of that calculation is assigning these child tax credits, what used to be called exemptions, to each parent, because that affects how much child support you pay. So when we run child support numbers, we need to know what's going on, who's claiming what on their taxes. Are you head of household, or is the ex-wife, ex-girlfriend head of household, because that affects your tax filing. So how the taxes are filed affects the child support number you're paying. Therefore, if you're calculating a child support number and agreeing to it, you need to know where the tax part of things lands. And if you're making those assumptions and working on all that, you want to have that in a court order and in writing so that you know where you stand. You can say, okay, yeah, well, that was right. I was supposed to get this child tax credit, and that was part of the calculations for support. And if I'm not going to get it now, I should be paying a lower support number, or I should be paying a different support number, depending on what the situation is. So wanted to put that out there, first of all, that there's this discussion that goes on and needs to be addressed, needs to be dealt with. We get questions about this, of who's claiming the child for child tax credit, who's filing as head of household, how's all that going? There needs to be some answers to that. You want to have things in writing, have it as part of your agreement at the time you're making an agreement on things. You don't want to be dealing with it later, trying to figure it out. That never works. The other person does what they want, and then of course it leaves you behind. So you don't want that. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You know, click subscribe. Maybe all your dreams will come true. I don't know. This deduction for personal exemptions has now been changed. It's now different than it used to be from 2018 to 2025 based on the new tax laws. So now what you're dealing with are child tax credits, but there are still exemptions for children. Those are still important, and you're gonna wanna fill out IRS form 8332. You've probably heard of this form if you're dealing with exemptions or whatever for children in the past. Basically, you need to fill out this form and not just have a court order. So the form would allow you to, you need to be able to fill out who's claiming how to household, and it determines who's eligible to claim which child tax credit. It can come into play with stimulus funds. So you want to have this IRS form 8332 filled out. The other thing to keep in mind when you're looking at tax exemptions and deductions for children and the child tax credits is that the designation head of household is not assignable. So who's going to claim head of household for tax purposes is not a negotiation. That's going to become a factual thing depending on the custody arrangement, and then whoever has head of household has it. They can't then sign some form and give it over to the other person. It doesn't work like that. The child tax credits are assignable. So what used to be exemptions, now really you're talking about child tax credits. Those can be done by way of a form, by way of a court order, and you want to know where you stand on those. And those get remember the value of those gets phased out. So you don't want to find that you're fighting over something, you're trying to get this child tax credit, come to find out that you don't really get anything out of it. So there's software you can use to calculate what value it has to you. You can get advice from a CPA or look at some things in the tax code on your own of what the cutoff is, the phase out procedure. I wouldn't begin to try to get into all that in a short video, but the point of this, the takeaway here is you want to be aware of who's claiming head of household for the child, who's going to have the child tax credit for the minor child in the divorce or the custody case, and how IRS form 8332 comes into play. You want to have that filled out when you can and make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I hope that helps.